The Dark Age was never meant to show lighthouses. The youngest phase of the universe, habitually imagined as slow and silent, is now yielding points of light that seem to arrive too early and shine too fiercely. It is a logical rupture because the standard story is seductively simple. After the Big Bang, the cosmos expands and cools, and for a time it remains almost opaque. In that era, ordinary matter is mostly hydrogen and helium. The gas is diffuse, and gravity must labor patiently before it can compress it enough to ignite the first stars. If this sequence held perfectly, the first 1 or 200 million years would be a dark prelude, not a spectacle. And yet the common assumption is plausible for a simple reason. The physics of light has always taught us caution. The farther an object lies, the fainter its glow, and the easier it is to mistake an ancient signal for an illusion born of dust, ambiguous spectral lines, or a gravitational lens that magnifies what would otherwise go unseen. For decades, those very limits protected the cosmological model. Beyond a certain boundary, we simply could not see clearly enough to test the dawn of the cosmos in earnest. What has unsettled that calm is that the boundary has shifted. A new instrument has begun collecting photons where the oldest messages fade, in the infrared, and suddenly the primordial universe has become legible, not as conjecture, but as archive. When light travels through expanding space, its waves are stretched. This is redshift. It is not an abstract number, it is a cosmic clock. The greater the shift, the earlier the light set out, when the universe was young. Values around 10 or 12 already carry us to epochs when the first galaxies were taking shape. More extreme values, 17, perhaps even beyond, offer a glimpse of a cosmos that had only just begun counting its millions of years. In that regime, every luminous point is a provocation, because the question becomes unavoidable. What, exactly, was shining? A series of observations has revealed exceedingly faint sources at the edge of the observable universe, initially catalogued as simple points of light awaiting definitive spectroscopic confirmation. The issue is not merely their presumed distance, but the implication. If even a fraction of those signals truly belong to extreme redshifts, it would mean that the universe, in its first 200 million years, was more active than the traditional narrative suggests. The quiet preparation of the Dark Age would instead become an era of rapid construction, driven by processes capable of generating luminosity, heat, and compact structures ahead of schedule. The tension deepens when the discussion shifts from isolated, ambiguous sources to candidate galaxies that, at high redshift, already appear massive. Some seem rich in stars, with stellar masses startling for such a young universe. Here the paradox is temporal. Assembling so many stars requires gas, but above all, it requires time. Gas must fall into gravitational wells, cool, fragment, and give birth to successive generations of stars. If all of this happens too soon, then either nature proved more efficient than we imagined, or we are misreading what we see. There is also an emblematic case. A galaxy confirmed at a redshift above 14, observed when the universe was only a few 100 million years old, yet already boasting a stellar mass on the order of hundreds of millions of suns. It is like finding a completed building in a city that, according to the plans, should still have only its foundations. At that point, doubt becomes subtler and more scientific. It is not enough to ask whether galaxy formation models need to be accelerated. One must ask whether some of these sources are galaxies at all. The primordial sky can deceive. A nearer object, heavy with dust, can mimic the colors of something unimaginably distant. A compact system with peculiar emissions can seem older than it is. And yet, even allowing for ambiguity, one fact remains. The number of anomalies has grown enough to turn curiosity into tension. From here, the path forks. If these objects are galaxies, then the young universe managed to build quickly, perhaps because gas flows were more intense, or because certain regions began with unusually favorable conditions, or because the conversion of gas into stars was more efficient in those early epochs. If they are not galaxies, then we must identify another engine capable of producing light so soon. Paradoxically, that second road may be even more revolutionary, because introducing a different actor alters how we imagine the birth of structure itself. The turning point lies in understanding what mechanism can ignite before the stars, or alongside them, without obeying the timetable we had drawn. One compelling possibility is that some of these sources are not stellar populations at all, but matter plunging into an extreme gravitational well. A black hole, by definition, emits no light. Yet gas spiraling inward heats up and can blaze brilliantly. If such a process occurred very early, the young cosmos might have lit up not because it had already built many stars, but because it had already forged a handful of accretion engines. Here the question shifts from the origin of galaxies to the origin of black holes themselves. Primordial black holes. Rather than forming from the death of stars, they could have arisen directly from density fluctuations in the newborn universe. In regions dense enough, gravity might have triumphed immediately, collapsing matter into compact objects before true, stellar astronomy even existed. If they existed in significant numbers, such objects would rewrite the earliest cosmic chapters. They would not be curiosities but seeds. A primordial black hole could draw in gas, heat it, ionize it, and create an environment in which star formation ignites more readily around an already deep center. In this scenario, some ancient lights would not testify to mature galaxies, but to regions where gravity switched on a lamp before building a city. The difference is subtle yet immense. It changes not only what happened, but how. Light would not be the final outcome of a long process, but an early byproduct of rapid collapse. Yet this explanation is no free shortcut. Invoking primordial black holes entails measurable consequences. Widespread compact objects would alter gravitational lensing, leave statistical imprints on the distribution of matter, impose constraints on the cosmic microwave background and on the growth of structure. When cosmology adds an ingredient, the rest of the recipe must still hold together. That is why the hypothesis is powerful but demanding. It must explain much without breeding contradictions, or be pared back. Alongside this theme, another has emerged, perhaps even more enigmatic because it concerns numerous and peculiar objects. Compact little red dots, colored with an extreme crimson hue. At first, it is natural to classify them as distant, dust-rich galaxies. But discordant details soon appear. If they were active galactic nuclei, powered by well-formed black holes, one would often expect an X-ray signature, and in many cases that signature is weak or absent. If they were violent, irregular phenomena, one would expect marked variability, yet some display a steadiness that does not fit the classic image of a turbulent engine. They seem hot and powerful, but not in the right way. From this tension arises an even more radical idea, one consistent with a primordial universe poor in heavy elements: supermassive stars. Not stars merely a little larger than the Sun, but hypothetical objects weighing thousands or tens of thousands of solar masses, perhaps more, formed in an era when gas could collapse more uniformly and fragment less readily. Such a star would shine with extraordinary luminosity and possess a distinctive spectrum. It would also lie briefly, unstable and doomed to a catastrophic end, perhaps collapsing directly into an already massive black hole. And thus two mysteries converge: the nature of the little red dots and the origin of supermassive black holes. For supermassive black holes appear astonishingly early. We see them in the young universe as already grown monsters, weighing millions or billions of suns. The problem has always been speed. To begin with a small seed and grow so vast within a few 100 million years demands near perfect, uninterrupted accretion, possible, but stretched to its limit. If instead the seed is born heavy, everything changes. A supermassive star that collapses leaves behind a massive black hole from the outset. It is not magic, it is natural acceleration. And if some of the little red dots represent precisely this intermediate phase, then we may be witnessing, in cosmic real time, the transition from primordial gas to the first seeds of future giants. The decisive point is that every scenario makes predictions. A young galaxy rich in stars should display specific spectral lines, particular elemental ratios, and recognizable signatures of stellar populations. An accreting black hole should leave traces of ionization, broad emission lines, energy dispersed in ways that remain identifiable even when shrouded in dust. A supermassive star should bear a more distinctly stellar imprint, and its brief lifespan should render the observed population consistent with a fleeting phase. The scientific community is working precisely here, turning anomaly into diagnosis, and diagnosis into a choice among models. It is at this juncture that the word crisis finds its true meaning. It is not the collapse of cosmology, but the pressure that forces refinement. The Standard Model remains extraordinarily successful on large scales, describing expansion and the universe's global structure. Yet the cosmic dawn is an extreme regime, and extreme regimes expose hidden approximations. A small error in cooling times, in star formation efficiency, in gas flows, or in the birth of black hole seeds can make the young universe appear slower than it truly was. Conversely, a minor observational ambiguity can make an object seem older and more massive than it is. The challenge is to disentangle what is genuinely new from what is merely difficult to measure. And yet, even with all due caution, a feeling lingers. We are watching a cosmos that grows with an energy we did not anticipate. If the first light arrived early, then the transformation of neutral gas, the reionization of the universe, the thermal evolution of the intergalactic medium may also have unfolded differently. If certain gravitational engines ignited at once, then the story of galaxies begins not with slow accumulation, but with deep centers organizing matter and radiation from the start. If supermassive stellar phases existed, then supermassive black holes are not miracles of growth, but the natural outcome of a primordial cosmic biology that no longer exists. In the end, the question that matters is not whether we were wrong about everything, but where, precisely, we oversimplified. The young universe need not be a capricious exception. It obeys laws. Only under extreme initial conditions those laws yield results our mature intuition struggles to foresee. Every light that appears too soon is a natural experiment. Every spectrum is a signature. Every discrepancy is a stern, not gentle, invitation to tighten theory until it matches what the sky is truly saying. And perhaps that is the deepest shift of all. The cosmic dawn is not an empty chapter to be filled with hypotheses. It is an observable territory, rich with clues, where the cosmos reveals how swiftly it can become complex, and how readily an elegant story can be compelled to learn a new rhythm. If you have made it this far, it means you cherish curiosity as much as we do. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, write a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It is the best way to support what we do. Your presence truly makes a difference. Until our next exploration.